Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And it is Faith and Family Wednesday, but we're sliding it a little back into Politics and Government Tuesday and combining those because our guest and co-host for the hour is retired Congressman Bill Redmond, who is a pastor and also has been a candidate election trainer for decades. And we're going to be talking about how politics, whether or not you want to get involved, impact both your faith and your family every single day because of the policies that come out of the decisions of politics and the election. So this is our headline segment. We're going to be doing some faith and family news and some political news in that, because yesterday we actually didn't have political headlines because we had Representative House Rep Ken DeGraff giving us a legislative update from the Gold Dome, and so that was really great. So before we get into the headlines, I want to let you know that we are in election season again. Why? Because election season never, ever ends. That's a concept I've had to wrap my mind around. And so we're back here in the Colorado Springs City Council elections, which is coming up on April 1st. But because we have 3 weeks of voting, the ballots actually ship out on March 7th. So it's getting very, very close. And Church for All Nations, CFAN, which is always known for its candidate forums, is having one tomorrow evening, the 27th of February, at their North Campus, 6:30 to 8:30. It's a candidate forum for city council members. They have most of the city council members are going to be there, and I'm planning to be there. So 6:30 at CFAN North to hear from the candidates. If you vote in municipal Colorado Springs, definitely go to that and stay tuned, because the voter guide that I helped put out, Church Voter Guides, is coming out on March 9th with should be all of the candidates in there, and you can find out what they think in there also. So, Bill Redmond, Congressman Redmond, thanks so much for being on the Peak again.
It's awesome to be here. Awesome to be here.
It's great to have you here. Bill was here one of our first weeks when we just launched. We launched on January 15th last year, so you were here just a little bit after that, and was on the program. And glad to have him back, but doing a little differently. Last year we talked a lot about elections and running for office. This is going to be more about our everyday life, faith and family life. So first headline, there were multiple headlines that I pulled regarding what I would put under the state of the church in our region. And just going through these headlines, we have a prominent Colorado Springs church expands with medieval downtown property. And this is about Woodman Valley Chapel that has 7,000 congregants over 5 different campuses. And they are going into a newly into an historic building downtown. Otherwise, there's also the First Congregational Church in downtown Colorado Springs keeps getting vandalized for the 4th time in 6 months, and historic Manitou Springs Church to close, citing dwindling attendance and collections. That is St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Manitou. So, Bill, we have these different denominations and different state of affairs as far as growth and shrinking down. As someone who's been monitoring this, especially with Biblical Worldview and George Barna, and monitoring the state of Christianity and denominations for many, many decades, right? 50, 60 years, you've been paying attention to that. What are you making of this here in our region with these news?
Okay, so the common thing with all these churches and the denominations that they represent, and this is a national phenomena, this is not just local, it happens nationally, and they're basically churches that failed to follow what the Apostle Paul says in Colossians chapter 2, verse 8, that the Apostle Paul, he warns the church in Colossae, and in the imperative tense form, in that verse, he says, "See to it that you are not taken captive by the empty and deceitful philosophies of men." And the common thread of all these churches and the denominations that are collapsing is that they actually embrace the Enlightenment views of God, which means that God is not transcendent creator of the entire universe, but God just doesn't exist at all, but we're still going to have some meaning in our life. And so there's this movement that recognizes that only material world is the only thing that's real, but the material world can't give us any meaning. And so there's an existentialism that came up, and every single one of these churches and their sister churches across the country, that they're closing. They're closing, and the Lord's closing these people. And usually they've got a rainbow flag out in front. But
So we would call them woke churches today. That would
we,
be...
we would call them woke churches today. But see, it didn't. This didn't start just like last year. Them starting to have financial problems and older people dying, not attracting new people, because the religion that was being presented was a religion that was detached from the Bible, that the God that the Bible says is there and he's not silent, they didn't believe in that God. And as a result of that, people just stopped going and they're closing nationally.
Okay. Second article, Colorado Governor Jared Polis questions Doge's strategy, agrees that the penny should go. And obviously, we have an interesting thing here in Colorado, Bill, where pretty much the whole country shifted conservative or Republican or whatever you want to say. I would say overall more conservative because most people are still independents or moderates, but not Colorado. Colorado, a little bit. We had a little bit of move that way, but it's still quite what I would say radically left, and that's being shown in our legislature. So, I don't know. Have you been paying attention to Polis, our governor, trying to sort of play both sides of this thing and saying we're not a sanctuary state, but because we know he wants to run for president.
Right. Well, yeah. The reality was that when I was in office during the Clinton impeachment, the real justified impeachment.
So this was end of the 90s.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. That every single member of the Colorado delegation that went to D.C. that I served with, every single one of them was Republican. And it was an intentional plan to turn the state blue. And Polis was one of those. Hickenlooper was another. For apocalyptic horsemen for those that followed it in those days.
They're called the Colorado Blueprint.
The Colorado Blueprint, and the people had not changed. But what happened is that they flew in under the radar and basically took hold of the instruments of government, but not necessarily did not change the culture of Colorado. So the culture of Colorado is coming back, and the people, the grassroots people of Colorado, now that they're awake, that they're beginning to respond more like along the lines of the issues, that are supported by Donald Trump and not Polis or Hickenlooper or other progressives.
And yet they're still running the government.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So his big thing with, there's, many people have issues with Doge. I'm all for it. Okay. But I do have a word of caution that there's a way of going about it. Changes take place one of two ways, either incremental or cataclysmic. And what's happening is that Doge in some circumstances needs to be blending those two. Some need to be taking place, cataclysmic, such as USAID. But one of the things that Elon Musk did is he laid off almost 1,000 people from Department of Energy, and they were physicists. Many of them were physicists that controlled the nuclear arms system. And also, these people aren't at their desk and not ready to serve the country. And so mistakes are being made. He needs to slow down.
Okay, and real quick, just a minute left. This is related. Ongoing lawsuits that our Attorney General, Phil Weiser, 9 different lawsuits against Trump orders, including federal worker buyout, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Doge access to payment system, federal funding freeze, birthright citizenship, firearms, and DACA access. We don't have much time left, but what do you think about trying to fight against the federal government and against the president as a state on these issues?
Well, I think that, number one, that President Trump needs to keep going and not pay any attention to these lawsuits at all. I think they're going to eventually fade away. But Mike Johnson and John Thune, who was a fellow freshman of mine in the 105th Congress, the two of them need to get busy and codify into law the things that Donald Trump is doing. And
so move them from executive orders to law.
Right. Yeah, right. Correct.
Okay. You're listening to the Peak News on AM 1460. I'm the Watchman, Chaim Goldman. We have as our guest and co-host for the hour retired Congressman and Pastor Bill Redmond. And we're talking about how politics impact your faith and family every day, whether you get involved with them or not. When we come back, Bill's going to be talking about removing the right to life from the Republican platform. We'll be right back.
Boy, maybe some people will stay tuned in on that one.
Yeah.
The way that you worded it, that's you know how to leave that one hanging.
Good hook. Yeah,
Newsflash, it's already been
you
removed.
gotta have good hook.
Awkward.
What?
They're removing the right to life on the Republican.
What?
Yeah, I agree. Is that what you're saying? That was awkward?
Yeah. Well, he said it was a good hook. Because people don't know what we mean.
Well, yeah, it just sounds like it almost sounds like bad. Like
Well, it is bad.
Oh, okay.
So what was that? I couldn't hear.
No, he was just asking about that.
Oh,
No,
I
I mean
thought
it.
you misworded something.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, he worded it right. I hope he got people's attention and they're going to sit in the car and not go into the mall.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty good.
They're coming to kill you.
And I just want to let you know
Yes.
about Jim Rand.
Yes. Yes. What is it?
It's 2 minutes and 28 seconds.
Okay.
What politicians shall be?
What politicians shall be? What do you mean by that? Should be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be.
Should be.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you. This program goes so fast.
It does, and it changes modalities, communication modalities. Every segment is a different form
Right.
of communication, so it's very challenging. People that aren't guests that aren't used to radio, it puts them through the gauntlet. But at the end, they're really happy because they realize that they were able to
Right.
pull it off. But when people hear about all the, because everybody's used to the standard Q&A format and not, hey, I'm going to want you to talk about headlines. Hey, I'm going to give you 4 minutes and you're on your own.
Right.
Right. And so it's been good. I mean, it's actually, I invented it for day one and it's worked. It just keeps working.
So are your ratings up and you doing well?
Yeah, we don't know overall because we don't know over the air, but we're getting a lot of more feedback. We're starting to do social media and getting there, and
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, people are taking notice now. I was
Okay.
told it took a year to establish a radio show, and I was like, I'll do it in 6 months. No, we didn't. We didn't do it in 6 months, but we had an awesome event. And by the way, just to know, we're always online because we're streaming.
Right,
So
right.
we're never off mic. We at the Pinery, we did an event called Taste of the Peak as a fundraiser.
Right.
We sold it out. We had over 200 people there, people from every sector, and it was just a really amazing, fun event. So a lot of people promoted the event. So people found out about our show because of the event promotion. So things are starting to layer
Right.
and get us there, and starting to meet with some people that will hopefully become good donors. And I'm going to be teaching in the D11 school system in the journalistic ethics and media vocational training plugged into an internship here. I'm actually going to be and getting college and high school credit, dual enrollment,
Right.
career training. So the whole thing's unpacking.
That's
you
good.
know.
So is
So
that
we're
done?
We're
Oh,
back. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. And to answer the musical question, no, we're not here to lie to you. We leave that to the professional media people, mainstream media that we've all lost trust in because they just kept lying to us for so long that everybody has realized it now. Everybody, regardless of the political spectrum. But you know what? That's really, really dangerous. And it's part of the whole Marxist takeover just to confuse everything. If you can get people to lose trust in the institutions, then you can try to replace it with something else. And something that Bill Redmond, Congressman Redmond, has been fighting against and trying to warn people against for years is how that Marxist influence has come into the churches and dumbed things down and gotten us off track. And one of those things that, we can say, well, is that part of this is that the Republican Party, the Right to Life Party, pro-life party, has somewhat moved away from it. And they did in the last elections. And so in this segment, I've asked Congressman Redmond to talk about removing the right to life from the Republican platform. Bill Redmond.
Okay, well, let's get the background on that. It's called the Declaration of Independence. So there's a long history of the support for the right to life, and Chaim, from recording the classes that we did during COVID, that yeah, I'm a very strong constitutionalist. Okay. And the Constitution frames our government. It didn't found our nation. Our nation was founded with the Declaration of Independence, and the most important part of the Declaration of Independence is the preamble: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." And so what we need to do is we need to remember that when we look at the rights that are enumerated there, it's the right to life, right to liberty, and right to pursue happiness. It's difficult to pursue happiness if one is not alive, but it's impossible to be free if one is not, or if one is not free, but it's impossible to be free if one is not alive. And so the right above all rights is the right to life. And in an effort to once again broaden the Republican intent, that they took the poll out, which is the long poll. We need to remember that Republican Party was born ending slavery, which was a violation of the right to liberty. And the future of the Republican Party is if it's going to have a future, it has to be grounded in the right to life.
So what do you make of this? And do you think that it's faith aside, do you think that it's a good political strategy?
No, I think it's exactly, it's setting us on a bad course. Let me give you an example. Germany in the early 1880s passed a law regarding abortion, and it took only 50 years from the passing of the abortion law for Germans to put into their mind the idea that some human life is not worth living, and it consummated itself in the concentration camps. And so as long as there is a message in a society that says some human life is not worth living, the whole society is at risk, and the future of that nation is at risk.
So what would you say to President Trump? Because it seemed it may have helped win the election and put him in power. He seems, what do you make of him? As far as his, do you think he did it as a political move, or do you think he doesn't really believe in it?
I think it was probably more of a political move. I've been around the Republican Party long enough to know that the strategists and the consultants will tell you to ditch the right to life bill. They tried to do it the year that Bob Dole was running against Bill Clinton. So this isn't the first time, but it's the people inside the Republican Party who are not grounded in the belief of the Constitution that this right comes from the hand of the Creator. These are men and women who are pragmatic. They don't care whether the Creator gave the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. They only want to win. And then what happens is you end up with a political movement, a political structure that the ends justify the means. And that's not good for any nation.
So do you think that we're going to see this added back in the next election cycle, especially if like a J.D. Vance is running?
I hope that happens. I hope that it happens before that. But God is not going to be mocked, and sooner or later, our nation will pay for removing that plank.
You're listening to The Peak. Retired Congressman Bill Redmond is here with us for the hour. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how politics affect your faith and family. We'll be right back. Excellent.
It's fast.
Yeah.
What was that
Yeah.
succinct enough?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it turned into an interview, not a monologue, but
Sure.
But that's fine. Okay, so we're on page 4.
Okay.
So we're going to seek to get through each one of those, so you'll have about 2 minutes or so per answer. Segment 4.
And segment 3?
4.
Segment 4. And then This is the last section.
No. Then
Oh.
then we have one after that, which will be which is number 5, which we're
Okay.
doing the importance of a biblical worldview.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can mention biblical worldview, but don't get into it
No.
too much here, because then you'll exhaust your content for the
Right.
next
Right.
the next
Right.
one.
And you're going to ask me these 5 questions, or
Yes,
we're going to address
yes.
these 5 items?
Yeah, I'll ask the question. No, it's for everybody, comma, mostly adults in it. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. So happy to have you joining us as we say the quiet stuff out loud here on the Peak. And with your help, we say it even louder. So please get involved with what we're doing, this scrappy grassroots citizen journalist project that we're trying to do. You know, who knew that the big mainstream media was going to absolutely collapse during the elections? And here we are sitting here saying, yeah, we knew there was big problems. We're the David to the Goliath, but there's a lot of power when you choose your stones carefully. And we would ask you to be one of those stones. So go to thepeak.news and find out about being a citizen journalist, an intern, a tech, a sponsor, love our sponsors, or even a guest. There's information and contact forms regarding all of that on the website. And as far as our sponsors, want to give a shout out to one of our gold sponsors, Vine and Wheel in downtown Colorado Springs, for a refreshing new take on wine and cheese. Go to vineandwheel.com to find out more, because wine and cheese are meant to be enjoyed together. Can I get an amen on that
Amen.
one? That's why I think that's in the Bible. That's one of those truisms. So we're here on Faith and Family Wednesday with retired Congressman Bill Redmond, who's also was a pastor for many years, including in China, and has trained through Focus on the Family and CitizenNet and other different names that they were under, has been training candidates to run and hold on to a biblical worldview when they are running. He's been doing that for decades, and we're going to be talking about in this segment how to run for office as a Christian conservative, which is a course that Bill Redmond and I were recording 5 years ago as COVID was coming in and lockdowns were coming. We were trying to get this program done, and we'll tell you more about that later on. And we're here to talk about how, whether or not you're involved in politics, it is affecting how you practice your faith, or the freedoms to allow you to practice your faith, First Amendment, and your family every day. So, Bill, first, for those who don't know you, give us some about your background, both
Sure.
faith, political life, otherwise.
Sure. Bill Redmond, born on the south side of Chicago, and Roman Catholic family. I ended up later inside the evangelical fold during college. And went to Bible college at Lincoln Christian College and Seminary. So both my undergraduate and graduate degree are from Lincoln, and moved to New Mexico, to Los Alamos. We've been there about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And I firmly believe that Jesus is the Lord over every domain of reality and every human endeavor. And so the whole idea of compartmentalization, that the truth about Jesus is somehow compartmentalized in inside a Christian, and then the rest of their life is free to run however they want, that there is no compartmentalization. Jesus is Lord of all. And so 50 years almost coming up on my ordination. So I've been preaching for about 50 years. 25 of those years were political years, either running for office or helping others run for office, or helping others get elected, Christians get elected to office. And so 10 years at Charis Bible College. This is my 10th anniversary of teaching how to run for office as a Christian.
And you were in office when?
I was in office during the real impeachment, 1997, 1998, won a special election. The news
A
of my
Republican
election,
in New
a
Mexico. How'd you do
Republican
that?
in New Mexico, a district that was 66% Democrat. And, excuse me, and the news of my win, it was all over Rush Limbaugh, it was over Cal Thomas. Every major network was carrying the news of my win because nobody thought that a preacher from the Midwest would be able to move to New Mexico and beat, a native-born Democrat in a district that was 66% Democrat, but we did, and it's all by God's grace.
And then they made sure you did not
And
in
then
the
they
next
made
election.
we won the race on about $200,000 to $300,000. The opponent spent more than $400,000, almost $500,000. And then in my reelect, we were hit with $5 million from the Democrat Party, and they wanted to make sure that I would be silenced.
Okay, but you got in there for 2 years during the Clinton impeachment. So, what do you see now, 2025, after the past 4 years under the Biden administration, and now with the Trump administration in it, his cabinet is now put together? What do you see as the biggest political issues for families and also for those of faith, or those who are families of faith?
Right, right. Well. First of all, we need to realize that just in the last 100 years, both faith and family have been redefined, or there are attempts at redefining, and there are philosophical things that are being taught in the universities and pushed into the public schools, so that faith, instead of being something that we are fully persuaded that Jesus is raised from the dead, that faith becomes a feeling, and then your feelings are just as good as my feelings, and it's as good as the next person's feelings, and we forget that those that are opposing us in the public domain, that they too have a faith. Their faith says God does not exist. It's not the same kind of faith that we have.
Some form of secular humanism.
Right, and that ends up being the religion that puts their life back together. So there's a rejection of God, and so what happens is that the church, the more we privatize the Christian faith, saying that, well, God really didn't talk to Moses at Mount Sinai, and there really wasn't a resurrection, and when we extract the historicity of the biblical message, we cut the legs, right out from under us. And so what we need to understand is that the object of our faith is historic faith, that it is not just our feelings inside of us. And so we are dealing with an idolatry in our culture today. For those that are listening that are Christians, that when we're looking at people that want to destroy God's work, whether it is destroying Israel, whether it is destroying the family, this movement, it's been around for a little bit more than 100 years. That they want to deconstruct everything that is biblical, reconstruct it in the likeness of human beings, and so the family gets redefined. That the family is no longer male and female, but it can be something more than that. Or the human being is deconstructed, and instead of being made in the image and likeness of God with a moral compass, with the law written on our hearts, that because they believe that God is gone, that the biggest threat is the idea that we need to compromise with these people that say that God does not exist, and we do not have to compromise.
And then, of course, the ultimate is abortion, just getting
Yes.
rid of human beings. In
all
the womb.
of the abortions, concentration camps, all of that are symptoms of that idolatry.
So, what can we do? This is not a theocracy here. This is a secular republic.
That's correct.
Here, but certainly supposed to be based and running on these biblical principles. What can we do as people of faith, or people that just are families, maybe conservatives with families, to try to protect the freedoms in this age? It seems like, Trump is certainly not going to solve the problems, but we've been given an opportunity to do it on the local level, where really all government happens, doesn't it?
Correct. Well, there's that old saying, ignorance is bliss. That's not true. Ignorance is dangerous. And, I live in New Mexico, the neighbor to the south, and we already have the Abortion and Gender Identity Access Act. And what that means is that children, that when they go to school, they will be asked what their gender is. If it does not coincide with what they physically present, the school system is now obligated to begin to work with those children without parental notification, without any kind of parental consent, nothing whatsoever. And the children are being mutilated. And New Mexico's, there's more states other than New Mexico. I don't know what the law is currently here in Colorado, but even though President Trump was elected, that these people will continue to break down the authority structure of the family, circumvent parents, and the parents in the peak area need to find out what is going on with the Colorado law and do everything that they can to secure parental rights over the children. That's the number one thing.
What else? What's something else that we can do as the electorate, as just citizens here?
You can find Christians that are running for office and help them get elected.
Because elections really do matter. I mean,
elections do matter.
If you don't, whether or not you agree with Trump, maybe you wanted Biden. If you're listening to this station, probably not, but maybe you did. We can see how radically different things are with a different administration. So if you think checking out of elections and not being part of the political process is something you can safely do, both Bill and I would tell you no.
No. In fact, elections do matter. Newt Gingrich held the vote for the balanced budget resolution in 1997 for my election to win. He was one vote short, and I cast the deciding vote. One vote to get the balanced budget resolution across.
So we have about a minute left. Let's talk about Christians running for office and this how to run for office course. To give people a little promo of it.
Sure. Well, for the longest time, evangelicals and other Christians, that they were, they sat on the bench. They didn't get on the field, and then they wonder what happened. And what they need to do is that it was the pagans that told us that we as Christians should not be involved. And there were many in both the liberal church and the conservative churches that discourage Christians from running for office or Christians being involved in any way other than perhaps voting. And the whole gamut of the political and government sphere comes under the lordship of Jesus, and every Christian could be and should be engaged in some way.
And so how to run for office as a Christian conservative, what do people learn?
They will first learn a biblical worldview, know why they're running. As you've heard me say, I'm not going to tell them how to buy their bumper stickers until they know why are they running, and they're running to glorify God. And then as we will, and you need to go on it because we're out of time, go to the website, runforoffice.training. And this is a course that Bill and I put together. It's about 10 hours of content, 50 different modules, starting with a biblical worldview, and then all the practicalities of running for office, including how to raise money and how to get your base out to vote. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We're here with retired Congressman Bill Redmond. When we come back, Bill is going to be talking about the importance of a biblical worldview for everyone, and especially candidates. Okay. So this is going to be about a 4 to 5 minute segment. Okay.
So you can just do your biblical worldview thing, right, and then we'll see where we end up.
Okay.
But I have.
Is this hot?
Well, we're on.
Just the camera's hot.
Yeah, the camera. Yeah, it's not being broadcast, but it's going out over Facebook. Then I have to throw to a pre-recorded segment, so there's not going to be music. So when I give the final time, we got to hold to it so we can get out and say goodbye. We're still doing that Jim Miller and the rants at the end. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
He's still going. 4 days a week he gives us rants.
He gets your rants.
The rants, and now I met him when he was running for mayor, and he's now running for city council. So he, by being on this show, has become sort of a celebrity in town. Every man, he shows up to the forums dressed from his garage with his stained clothing and his t-shirts and just the Jim Miller, just a guy.
Yeah.
Because that's what his brand. I'm Jim Miller.
Does he have a garbage truck with his chauffeur?
Huh?
Does he have a garbage truck with his chauffeur?
No, he hasn't done that. He's just it's stuck. The everyman, who's just the Andy Rooney. The Andy Rooney's little sarcastic, angry everyman,
or Daniel Boone. Going back further.
So it's been cool to see him, and he's not Christian, but he's conservative, and he's just become entity, and this show has done that, and it's really
Right.
cool. And it kept him, now he has name recognition for city council because he ran for mayor, and he kept his name going through this program. And so now he's finding that people are remembering him. Will he win? I don't know. There's a, well, it's nonpartisan race. But it's a Democrat incumbent in that.
There was something I was going to ask you about
And we're
a
back
year.
in a minute. Yeah.
About a year ago, there was Harvey Yates had one of his employees call, and we were trying to get them like 5 licenses. Did they ever buy those 5 licenses?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was done.
Not the one in Los Alamos, but it was separate from the one in Los Alamos.
No, I only got one sale. There was only one.
And there was
from
one,
that
and
one
that
bulk
was
license. That was it.
okay.
Yeah, if we can do more because the yearly thing on the website is coming up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because there's the mayor of Rio Rancho once run for governor, and
Okay.
he heard about it.
Well, I fixed the PayPal problem, so they can buy it.
What?
Now. I fixed the PayPal problem, so they can buy the course now.
Okay. There's always the threat of idolatry.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're here on Faith and Family Wednesday with some politics mixed in, as we have as our guest retired Congressman Bill Redmond, old friend who comes up here once a year to teach up at Charis Bible College in their practical government school. This is his 10th year doing that, teaching how to run for office. And right as COVID was starting to come in, we were putting together this course called How to Run for Office as a Christian Conservative. That starts with a biblical worldview and then goes into all the practicalities. And if you're even thinking about running for office, go check it out. It's a fully online course. Most people at the level of school board and city council, they can't afford to have a campaign manager. So Bill becomes your virtual campaign manager. It's only a few $100s to get the course. And at runforoffice.training. But Bill so centers, and I sat through all the recording, all the scripting, and all the recording. And before Bill teaches you anything about how to run for office, he says you gotta know your why. Why are you doing this? And if you're a Christian, you have to be centered in a biblical worldview. So, Bill, tell us, just for all of us who claim to be people of faith, followers of the Bible, why a biblical worldview is so important, and then we'll get to why it is even more so maybe for candidates.
Right. Well, first of all, biblical worldview is important for people of Christian faith of all generations. Let me give you an example. If you were to ask an evangelical, say, well, should we take the gospel and put Karl Marx side by side with that? They'd say, no, we would never do that. But you see, Karl Marx gets sugar-coated with terms like social justice and equality and DEI and that kind of stuff. And so Christians, that they're actually putting side by side Jesus and Karl Marx with equal authority. And that's a biblical worldview problem, that they don't understand what the scripture says about the whole world and our fallen nature and only redemption in Christ. And the idea that there's no human thought that can be brought side by side with the revealed scripture and make them co-equal. That's what happened on Mount Carmel. Elijah and the 450 prophets of Baal.
And I'm rereading a book by Francis Schaeffer called The Christian Manifesto that Bill turned me on to back when we were working together. And his conclusion, and this was a warning 40 plus years ago that we did not heed. And he said in 40 or 50 years we could lose the country. And boy, did we come close to doing that, it seems.
Very much so.
That inevitably those two worldviews, the humanistic worldview, Marxist worldview, and the Christian worldview cannot coexist, but yet Christians think they can. Why do we think that?
Well, first of all, Christians are lied to, and they're very gullible. We need to remember that when Jesus was in the wilderness, Satan tempted him, and if Satan has the guts to tempt the Lord, you're nothing. I'm nothing. We're easy pickings, and he uses Scripture to do that. And so Christians hear Scripture passages regarding justice and authenticity and equality and that kind of thing, and so you get Marxism with this sugar coating of Bible verses, and people without discernment, they fall for it. And those three churches that just locally that are going under, that's what the future of the church is. Any church that embraces that.
Okay, we have less than a minute left. Why do Christian politicians need to hold on to a biblical worldview above even winning their race?
I wish I could give you a list of names of Christians that compromised themselves, not morally, once they got elected, but they did. They were not grounded in a biblical worldview, and before they knew it, they were supporting things that actually, would be detrimental to the thriving in America by embracing things that come from a Marxist, atheistic worldview. So Christians can be compromised. So to avoid the compromise, you need to be grounded with a biblical worldview early on in your campaign, and you stick with it once you're elected.
Okay, and just real quick, 10-second admonition for Christians thinking about running for office.
Get grounded in a biblical worldview and buy the class.
Good pitch there at the end. And I would say do it. Look into it, do it.
Yeah.
But know why you're doing it. That's the most important thing. And runforoffice.training is the website where you can check that out. Bill Redmond, Congressman Redmond, thanks so much for being on the Peak.
Good to be here with you.
And now Jim Miller, just a guy in the Peak rants. Today, Jim is ranting about what politicians should be.
You've got
It's falling apart. Okay.
Yeah.
Look good. It's good.
It's good.
He does a good job.
Eric Metaxas' book. Do you have an extra?
These?
The Is Atheism Dead?
Yeah, you can take as many as.
I'm
yeah,
sorry?
Yeah, you can have as many as.
Are those yours for a giveaway or?
Yeah. Well, so here's the deal. We have cases of these.
Oh, okay.
I also have the Letter to the American Church if you wanted some
okay.
of those.
Yeah.
But Salem, did you hear that Salem sold their music stations? Did
No.
you hear about that? So everybody in the industry has been having problems filing bankruptcy, everything. So Salem had $160 million in debt they were carrying because especially during COVID when advertisers stopped advertising. So they sold their Christian music stations. They had 7 of them, including Dallas and LA were the big ones.
Right.
And now they're a debt-free company. They took on a partner and everything.
Right.
So we're down to the core of what Salem used to be, which is Bible teaching and talk and conservative talk.
Right.
the cash cow went away. But about a year ago, they sold their book division as they were starting to get back to their core. So we have lots of these like cases, but we used to have unlimited books, and now we don't get new books.
No.
So
this is the end.
So anything that's here, you're welcome to.
Well, thank you.
And there's
Thank
stuff
you.
out there too.
Okay.
But we used to get.
Yeah, because I saw this one for Shirley Ray, and even if I had to pay for it.
Okay, no, any of the stuff here, and if you want some of the Letter to the American Church, I have some of those personally.
Okay.
But we have probably 100 of these.
That's fine. I can get a copy.
Okay.
The Letter to the American Church.
Unfortunately, it was great. We used to have the music station where we'd get Christian concerts and tickets, and
Right.
we used to have books that we could give
Right.
away, and
Right.
but now we're
So
just
do we
radio
need to
stations.
move to a different studio and somebody else is coming in?
No,
here?
we'll be recording here.
We're going to be in here.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to use the restroom real quick before we get started because we're going to record though in here.
Yeah, you can either go now. I mean, I have a 2-minute close. You can.
Oh, okay.
I have to close the show.
Okay.
And then we'll be
Okay,
done.
I'll wait till you close.
Yeah, and then we can take a little break and then come back in
Okay.
here.
Okay.
If we were doing a live show, there was 10 seconds between the two shows where
Got
we
it.
had to flip over, but now we have a little bit of time
Okay.
to do it. Okay, so we're back in 30.
So I met Eric when we were over in
Yeah.
Texas,
Yeah.
and I told him about Chuck Colson's quote that politics is downstream from culture, and he says, "Yeah, Chuck stole that from me."
Thanks for joining us for another broadcast of the Peak News. It's my joy, my exhaustion, but also my joy to bring this to you. And more, as you can see, this is not the Chaim Goldman Show. It's not the Peak with Chaim Goldman. This is about you all. It's about us here in the community. So please check out thepeak.news and join us in some way. We also have an educational foundation that allows us to train both adults and youth interns in how to break into media and to do it with great journalistic ethics and know how to be a journalist. So we're really seeking to transform the media, yes, right out of this little studio here in Colorado Springs. And we say the quiet stuff out loud, and we can say it even louder with your help. Want to do a shout out to our platinum sponsor, Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. They are our family dentist, and we recommend them for you, especially if you're into natural health. And I want to promote Church Voter Guides. That's a project that I and some others started 4 years ago with the city council election in Colorado Springs. And we're about to put out another one for city council. And go to churchvoterguides.org, churchvoterguides.org for more info. And also, please join us. We're calling through to churches right now to let them know that we're about to come out with our guide. It's completely distributed online, and we'd appreciate your help. So go on there, go to the My County page and sign up, and we'd appreciate your help as we put out another local voter guide. Tomorrow is Media and Education Thursday, and our Peak investigative journalist, Maine #1 guy, Jordan Baldwin, is back with a major update on the Mayor Yemi hate crime hoax story that we started reporting back in November when no one else in town was talking about it. And there's a lot of great new developments. Plus, we'll be talking about some other investigative reports Jordan is working on. Stick around here on The Answer for the Larry Elder Show coming up next. And on the Peak.News, you can check out our almost 200 podcasts that we've done. You're sure to find a subject or person that you will appreciate. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud for such a time as this. Now get out there with your faith and your family and exercise your First Amendment rights. Shalom, y'all.